Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about maxxxine. This movie came out in 2024, and it is the trilogy, and as of right now, the final installment to the A24X/Pearl series. This is the most interesting trilogy I have ever seen because while the movies do connect, yes, the third one kind of connects in an odd kind of way. I really feel like Pearl should have came out first, then X, and then maxxxine. Because the story is a whole lot more fluid that way. Because like Pearl came out in 2022, and I believe X came out in 2020. So it's been 4 years since like the first X movie, and maxxxine takes directly after that of X because Pearl is a prequel and everything. And so you kind of have to remember, okay, what all happened in X other than the alligator? You know what I'm saying? Now this whole trilogy was created, written, and directed by Ty West. Mia Goth is the main star of all three movies, playing two characters in the first movie and one character each in the last two. And she also produced this last third movie, and I believe she helped with the script a little bit and where the character goes. But this is just an odd trilogy because the thing about this is that they're technically slasher movies slash horror psychological movies. They always don't feel that way. This one feels more like a true crime type movie. Pearl felt more like a psychological thriller, and X felt like a slasher. And the thing about X is that it was like, an unbelievable hit. People weren't expecting it to be as good as it was. And the reason why it was so good, because it really brought you back in time of those old 80s classic slasher movies, and it felt like the 80s itself. And so it's just a movie that, is going by the motions, and then you're not expecting people to stop dropping dead. And all of a sudden, it's an old couple, like an old 80, 90 something year old couple doing the murdering and everything. It was just strange and bizarre. And it was fresh and it was new. It wasn't groundbreaking by no means. Like, it wasn't the best slasher of ever, but it was different. It was fresh, and it kind of reminded people back of the old days, and people are getting kind of tired of modern times and stuff. Pearl was the prequel, and a lot of people were surprised that Pearl came out next and not maxxxine because of the way X ended. X ended with maxxxine telling, the old couple she's gonna make it in Hollywood one day, and she killed the last remaining member of the old couple that was doing the murdering. And it revealed that the old couple was listening to this televised evangelical like religious dude on television, and it turned out to be the father of maxxxine. A weird, unexpected twist. So when they came out with Pearl next, it was kind of like, shouldn't this be like the third movie to show how everything kind of all started? But then they, because maxxxine should have came out second. But Pearl came out second. And because they wanted to tell the backstory of the woman that did all the murders in the first movie. And it was a surprising hit. In my opinion, Pearl is the best out of the entire trilogy, because Mia Goth like acted her butt off in that movie. And we now get to see how this sweet, innocent person turned twisted and crazed and started killing people and hallucinating and stuff like that. Her inner desires is very Black Swan, but she doesn't black out. She just does it in like real time and fully conscious and stuff. And then comes maxxxine. And I remember thinking to myself after watching X and knowing this is going to be a trilogy and finding out what Pearl is about and everything, that I'm just kind of like, how the heck are they going to move forward with the Maxine character? Like, it doesn't make no sense. It should have just ended with her character in X. So I'm just like, how the heck are they going to write, like, a trilogy based off, like, like her character ending it and everything? Then I read the synopsis of it, and I'm all like, this doesn't really feel like horror. It just feels like a true crime thing, and you inserted Maxine in. Then I saw the trailer, and I just kind of thought to myself, this might not do so well. Like, I just had that sneaky feeling in my head, and it was kind of mid at the box office and everything, coming like I think around fifth place, and it kept dropping every week. And I'm just kind of like, oh, that's not a good sign. And then some people was reviewing it. I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign either. But in craziness, this movie made the most money out of the entire trilogy and everything. Like, what was it? It had 10 million of a budget and made 22 million at the box office. The first one, X, had 1 million and it made 15 million. And then what was it? Pearl had like 4 million, 4.8 million, and it made 10 million. Pearl is the least successful movie, but it's the best in my opinion. This movie, however, while it is good and interesting, it doesn't hold a candle to the first two movies. I feel like this is the weakest in the entire trilogy. It's just kind of like a movie that goes through the motions with the predictable third act, because you kind of guess who the killer is. At least I did watching this movie. Like, after the black dude died, I'm just kind of like, okay, I can kind of figure out who the killer is, because everybody who's dying knows Maxine, in Hollywood and everything. And so I'm just kind of like, I bet it's going to be him, but why exactly? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't know, man. It's just this movie. It didn't do it for me. Because the reason why this movie didn't do it for me is because with the first two, they felt cinematic. You can feel some type of direction with the visuals, the pacing, the setup, the characters. I think Ty West is still very new, and you can feel that originality in his work in the first two. With this third one, you don't really feel it. Like with the first one, it was like you can tell they was in the 80s. They filmed in New Zealand, which gave it a different atmosphere, a different coloration to like the film and everything. The way the dialogue was spoken between like the characters, what all happened, and more importantly, you had a actual supporting cast. See, in the first one, it was an ensemble with like actors and actresses and well-known faces and stuff like that. And all the characters had actually something to really do in the movie, and they weren't just there just to be there. And you didn't know who was the main star of the movie because it was an ensemble cast. And then when it ended with Mia Goth character Maxine surviving at the end, that was unexpected because you assumed at some point she was gonna die in the movie. And Mia Goth, really wasn't that well known at that time. And so a lot of people probably assumed Jenna Ortega was gonna survive because she's very well known, but she ended up dying and everything. And I forget the one rapper dude name that was in there and stuff. But like, you wasn't really expecting that. Then comes Pearl, where Mia Goth is the center of the movie. And she has to carry the entire movie on her shoulders. And she does an extremely good job at doing that. And you still had a supporting cast. And even though they weren't in the movie as much, you still got a sense of who they were and everything. Then comes the third movie, and they try to recapture that magic of having Mia Goth be the main center of the movie, and a small supporting cast that is kind of not so much forgettable, but not really explored that well. The only one who, like, it's weird. He got Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon plays John LeBert, or LeBert, and he's hilarious in this movie. And he did a really good job in this movie. So you kind of remember his character. He's a PI who's been hired by her father to find her in the relations to those murders that happened in X. And he's going to take her by any means possible, even if it means shooting her. So he's constantly stalking her throughout the whole movie and, stuff like that. And then he meets his demise in a very hilarious kind of way. Then you have Halsey playing a adult filmmaker star, and she's just kind of there in the movie. You don't know nothing about her other than she's an adult filmmaker and everything. And I used to be a fan of Halsey until I saw that video, and yes, there is a video of her kissing a then 11-year-old fan on the lips. And that grossed me out. And I'm just kind of like, what the world is wrong with you? Now, technically, I think she is bipolar, I believe. But there's no excuse for kissing an 11-year-old on the lips. And, but it was 11 or 13. I can't remember which. But it's still an underage person, and she was an adult. And the video is extremely hard to find now. You can't find it on Twitter. It's hard to find on the internet. It might still be on YouTube, but it's extremely hard to find. And surprisingly, she never got canceled. If it would have been a man, he would have been canceled for kissing an underage star. I am forever grossed out by that. And so she's just here in the movie. She has like a couple of lines of dialogue, and then she ends up dying. And it's just kind of like, well, I don't care if she dies because there's nothing to her character. Then there's another adult film star character who's in the same boat as Halsey. She's just there with no real backstory, no real reason for you to care about her, and she ends up dying. Then what's that one dude's name? I can't remember his name. I can't remember the dude's name. He's the black dude who ran the movie store or whatever. Like you buy VHS tapes. And with him you get a little bit more. Like, he's her friend and he would never like bang her and stuff. But he said that's the only reason why you're friends with me. That's her only male friend. And I think he's gay, but it is kind of alluded to, but not really emphasized on. And then he's nice enough to like stay the night with her and cuddle up with her. And he rides a skateboard, but that's about it. And he has a giant knife in the cast on his wrist. And that's literally about it. There's not much to his character. And you kind of feel bad for him dying only because he does care about her, but that's about it. Other than that, you really don't see them interact. And then you have Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Teddy Knight, who's her manager. And he just wants to make money, and he'll do whatever it takes, even if it means killing a man and cleaning it up, which is what he does to Kevin Bacon's character. Because after a while, she's tired of him pursuing her, so she lures him to like a junkyard. And that's where Carlo Esposito's character, Giancarlo, gets rid of him, and smashes him with that thing that presses down on cars and a compactor and everything. And it's hilarious. But then other than that, there are no real supporting characters in this movie. Like you have Elizabeth Bender, who is Australian but playing a British character. Just make her Australian in the movie. She's just kind of there, and I think she's either the director or the producer of the movie, and she's just there. That's it. These characters are just there. It's not like X. It's not like where they had interesting characteristics to them, interesting backstories, and a reason why you feel sad they died. And these people are literally just there in the movie, while Maxine Miller, going by Maxine Minks, is in LA trying to lead the adult business and trying to be a movie star. She's a Z-list actress because she does adult movies. Nobody wants to give her like the opportunity, and they finally do, making The Puritan 2. But then, in this movie, she is pursued by that of Kevin Bacon's character because he's a PI and wants to bring her in. And so then you have these two detectives, Detective Williams and Torres, who was trying to solve the murders of this person killing Hollywood starlets and everything. And I guess they like feel like somehow she's connected to it, or they feel like she's probably gonna be next, or maybe she can help solve who's gonna do it. And it's just kind of like, what the heck is this movie about? It's literally about Maxine just trying to be in the movie, and people are dying left and right, but she's not there to witness none of these people dying. And somehow, after thinking really hard, she's able to figure out, oh, all these people dying are going to big parties in the Hamptons. So she goes there without telling the police, trying to solve it herself for some bizarre reason. And the cops decide to follow her, and she finds out who the killer is. But not every person died in the Hamptons, because her friend died in his like store and everything. And not only that, but then it turns out that the killer, which I guessed it, is her crazed religious father and stuff. And the reason why I assumed that, because I was thinking, the movie X ended in an odd way, revealing that the murderers listens to her father preach and everything. Then, in the beginning of this movie, it starts off with an unknown man talking to his daughter, talking about how you're gonna be a big superstar and this and that, and that's her father, and recording her. And then all of a sudden, the person who sends her like a tape sends her like, I think, because somebody sent her an anonymous like tape, and I think it was like of her doing one of her adult movies. And I think another one part of it was the video of her father filming her years ago. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, everybody who's dying is people who worked with her or friends with her. And I'm all like, it has to be her dad. Like, it has to be. Like, who else is it going to be? Because this person is targeting her. And, like, and all this stuff is connected to her. And I'm just like, her dad's super religious, and she's in the adult business, and he wouldn't like that. So I'm guessing it's him, and bam, it's him. And the dude literally gets taxi cabs around town, and people can see him drenched in blood, but they don't care as long as he paid them more money. And he's just offering her like friends and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, huh. And it's like, this movie would have been so much better if it was more engaging. You need the characters to actually mean something in this movie. The kills are glory and everything, but just having a glorified kill isn't gonna save a movie. Her stomping on a dude, well, first, when this dude like walked up behind her, tried to trap her in the alley with a knife, she pulled a gun on him, and she makes him strip down, suck on the gun, and then she stomps on his balls, and you see it too, and it's gross. Gross factor doesn't always make a movie great. Like, you need an actual real true story. Now I know what you're gonna say, well, if this movie made more money than all the other ones, it's only because it's the last one in the trilogy and people was curious to see how it's gonna end. That's why it made a lot of money, not because it's a great movie and everything. And as for the future of this movie franchise, The director says it hinders on the success of this movie. Well, it made its money back, but it didn't make like these movies don't make a splash at the box office money wise. Like, they don't make hundreds of millions of dollars. They just make like, twice or whatever or about twice or whatever it is to make this movie and stuff. And he said most likely maxxxine is going to be the last one, in the franchise, because he doesn't really see it going forward. Because how can you really, especially with that third act, you know what I'm saying? Plus, this movie now has a lawsuit and everything. James, I think Hunter is his name, I believe it is. He was like a background extra or something in the movie. And he claims that Mia Goth kicked him in the head, like intentionally, and that he was fired from the movie after complaining and stuff. Like a wrongful termination type thing. I don't know how that happened in January of this year. So, and the movie came out this year. So, I don't know where that's going to go because, there's been no word on that since. And, this movie doesn't have that same vibe as the other two movies. Like in the first one, you could tell you was in the 80s and it had this like, hokey 80s feel to it. Pearl had this very vibrant color palette to it. Both of those movies was filmed in New Zealand, but then this one was filmed in LA, and while you still feel like you're in the 80s, it doesn't have that cinematic flair like the first two movies, except for the kills. The kills have that cinematic flair. But other than that, the movie is very flat, colorless, and just kind of unappealing by the way it looks, which is just the 80 movies, that flat color palette. But we've been infused with so much color over the years, you kind of don't want to go back to that. However, my God, the last 20 minutes are horrible, especially the last 11 minutes. Like, okay, so after it's revealed that her father is like the killer and everything, which by the way, he is not the Night Stalker. That was just a ruse to throw the audience off and everything. He's just, he has a religious cult and everything, and he's videoing his daughter, and he has all these cult members, and then all of a sudden it turns into kind of like this 80s action movie, and a very terrible one at that. Because it's like, the two cops show up and they just start shooting the place up, and they end up killing every cult member, even though the cult member has guns. And it's like, how the heck are they able to get all these clean shots off people? But then the male cop, Torres, ends up getting killed when he goes after the father, because the father's been shot. Right now, the father's an old 60-something-year-old man, yet the man's tough like I don't know what. And so the father gets shot, runs off, and Torres goes after him. Then at some point in time, Williams goes after him as well. By this time, Maxine has freed herself with the pocket knife of the guy who tried to trap her in the alley and everything. And so, like, she had that the entire time and hasn't used it until now. So one of the cult leader's guns is left behind, so she decides she's going to grab it and finish the job herself. And I'm like, when did she turn into an action star? I'll get into her a little bit later. Now, off screen, Torres gets shot up and he starts to die. And then Williams goes after her father. So after Torres has died, we then see Williams come back with a crucifix in her eye, a cross in her eye or whatever, and she's now killed because the father has killed her off screen. But then she ended up wounding the father off screen as well. Why the heck is all this stuff happening off screen? I will never understand. You're supposed to see this crap in the movie, you know what I'm saying? So then we see Maxine with the gun rifle in her hand, talking to her father. Father's all like, oh, I failed you, you're a monster, blah, blah. And then she ends up blowing his head off, like literally blowing it up, Evil Dead style. And I'm just like, is this the Evil Dead? Like, why would you do that? So his head goes completely splat. She becomes a big movie star and everything on the red carpet, and you think it's gonna end right then and there, but it doesn't. Then you got another couple of minutes that goes 1 month later, but this point is unnecessary because we know she got her happy ending. We know she became a big successful movie star, but now we see her at a completely different hairstyle and everybody's raving over her, and she's talking to her director lady or whatever, a producer lady, and they see her Puritan head like on the bed, and it just ends. And it's like, what was the point of that last couple of minutes? It made no sense. The movie ended, but yet you tacked on this extra part. I don't get it. And then when it comes to that Maxine, do we truly know who she is? Like, think about it. She grew up in a religious home. She ran away. She became an adult star, stripper type person. And then she became an adult movie star. That's all we know about her. And she has a desire to be an actual real actress. Other than that, that's all we really know. We don't know nothing about her love life. We don't know like what she like to do for a hobby. When did she become so tough all of a sudden? Like in the first movie, she was running and hollering like everybody else because the old folks were trying to kill her, but then she ended up killing that lady at the end. And now in this movie, she's like so tough she can take care of herself and nobody can hurt her. And it's just like all of a sudden they just wanted her to be this big action star in this movie. And it's just odd. This is why you don't let your stars chime in on what the direction of where their character should go. Sometimes they should just take the direction themselves. It's okay if she wants to produce this, but Lord Jesus, they should have never let Mia Goth, like, help chime in on the script and where her character goes, because it's a blank slate and just like an action-packed hero now all of a sudden. And like I said before, you don't really know who Maxine is and stuff. Like you really truly don't, other than the little tidbits that you get. And there is supposed to show the parallel between her and Pearl. They're both like, raised with super religious parents. They wanted to break into the Hollywood industry. It was rough for them, and they end up killing their parents, and and so they're both murderers and everything. But it's like you understand Pearl a heck of a lot more than you understand Maxine. And I just felt like this third movie was pointless and everything. Even if this movie wasn't connected to the trilogy, it still would have been a flat-footed movie because there's not a lot explained or for us to care about the characters and stuff. You need real characters in a movie, and these people are just inserted in. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.